working drummer.
Now kick it.
This is the Working Drummer Podcast, serving up perspectives, experiences, and stories from ground-level working pros. Advice, tips, and secrets on how to build a career in the music business.
Hey everyone, this is Working Drummer Podcast. I'm Zack Albetta, and today I talk with an institution in Atlanta drumming, Mr. Yonrico Scott. Yonrico is best known for playing in the Derek Trucks Band and the Royal Southern Brotherhood. Yonrico just released his 5th album as a leader entitled Life of a Dreamer, for which he wrote and arranged the songs and played drums, percussion, vibraphone, marimba, timpani, hand drums, and sang. Yonrico was born and raised in Detroit, which at the time was an economic and musical engine on par with New York, Chicago, and LA. His mother was a gospel singer and his grandmother was an organist, so he was encouraged to play music from an early age. If you haven't already, please leave us a rating and review on iTunes, follow us on social media, post pics and videos of your gigs using the hashtag #WorkingDrummer, and we're late to this party, but March is podcast month, so if you know someone who isn't hip to this podcast or the concept of podcasts in general, now is the time to recommend us. You can do this in person, of course, and if you do it through social media, use the hashtag Tripod, that's TRYPOD. We've been growing our audience consistently, and that is in no small part due to our existing audience spreading the word about us. That means you, so we appreciate that.
Hey folks, can we talk snare drums real quick? Dreamy, loud, bright, poppy, clean, articulate snares, and well, do you believe at love at first sight? Okay, first sound. Well, before I get into all that, let me tell you, the folks at KHS America invited me back out to their place to experience a few new snare drums they launched at Winter NAMM. And the drum I fell in love with, I was mentioning, it's one of the new Mapex Black Panther Design Lab series snares. It's called the Heartbreaker, a 14x6 8-ply mahogany shell with reinforcement rings. I could instantly hear the possibilities with this drum, and our friends at KHS America allowed me to take this drum on a test drive. I've used it live and in the studio, and let me just say, it got noticed. Punchy yet warm, it never lost its beautiful tone, even as I tuned it lower and lower. The other snares in this line include the Cherry Bomb, an 8-ply cherry wood precise-sounding snare, available in 14x6 or 13x5.5, and the Equinox, a 14x5 6-ply maple snare that's described as classic, bright, and articulate. Yes, all true. Some of the shared features of these 4 drums are the Pure Sound snares and the Micro Lock, cylinder drive with the butt end adjuster, and English mat. Okay, you know that little click-click you feel on the throw that keeps the snares in place? That's what I'm talking about. In the very near future on this podcast, we are going to sit down and talk with Russ Miller and get the backstory on these snares, as well as some very interesting developments coming your way through the Black Panther Design Lab line of instruments. You're going to want to hear this.
So let's get to my conversation with Yonrico. This was actually the first time he and I had met. I had managed to be in Atlanta for a year before that happened. I had been hearing so much about him, not just as a great drummer and musician, but as a powerful personality and presence on the music scene, and he didn't disappoint in any of those areas. So I think you'll dig hearing from Yonrico Scott. So Life of a Dreamer is your 4th album as a leader?
5th album, actually.
Wow.
For 5th album as a leader, the first one was called Turning the Corner.
Uh-huh.
It's actually a great record. It was with Kofi Burbridge and Todd Smalley, and we were actually at that time in the Derek Trucks Band. So when Derek would go play with the Allman Brothers, I would go, let's go, man, let's go do right off.
Sneak off and make a record.
We would, and that trio actually probably kind of set grooves for a lot of the tunes that became Derek Trucks Band's tune, like Joyful Noise.
Yeah.
The 3 of us kind of wrote that on a practice session for the Yonrico Scott Band. So that was the first record, and that was right after my heart surgery. Turned the Corner. That was like when I after I had open heart surgery, I felt like I was turning the corner of my life.
Yeah.
And
so just real quick, what year was this? You're playing with Derek. You're doing your first album as a leader.
Okay. Let me think. 99.
Okay.
Yeah, 99. Turn the Corner?
Yeah.
Yes, no. 2001.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, so then all the rest of the records, first was Be In My World, and then it was Quest of the Big Drum, and then it was Only a Smile, and then now is A Life of a Dreamer.
Yeah.
Now, and I did them all in 5 years.
Wow.
One after another. But Be in My World, I started right after we broke up with I broke up with the Derek Trucks band went on hiatus.
Yeah.
And so that one took a couple of years, right? So, and then the other ones were real quick. Quest of the Big Drum, Joseph Patrick Moore, great bass players, and the president of Blue Canoe Records, produced that in his house. So that was kind of like, we just wanted to give that as a tribute to Japan. We're about to do a Japanese tour, which I'm doing this week, actually.
Cool. Yeah, to promote the record, right?
To promote the record.
Yeah. So what is it about leading your own projects and doing your own music on record? Like, what possessed you to do that as opposed to being a sideman?
Well, I think in my heart that I always, have just loved being a sideman, firstly. It's kind of what I love doing. I like making, I play with a lot of singers, but when I decided to start making records, it was more of an outlet so I can get this crazy stuff out and get that outlet to play my jazz and my drum funk and sing, be Grady Tate and
do all your percussion.
All my percussion and get all that stuff I played in college. Just get that chance to go, I mean, there's never been and as you look at my records, there's never been a statement of I'm going to make a lot of money.
Right.
Or I'm going to go out and shake the world with them. They were just statements.
Yeah.
That's what records are to me. They're statements. Now, we all have, like all the records I've done now, I've just learned that they have different priority. You prioritize what your spirit is telling you, this record is this is R&B.
Yeah.
I'm going to People Bryson, man. I'm going to talk to the girls. Talk to the ladies. You did. Whenever you're out in my arms again, and tonight I celebrate my love again. I played all those tunes, And, then Ray Charles was doing this. Me, I'm just playing drums.
Yeah.
And Life of a Dreamer was really the biggest testimony to that statement, what I just said. It's just, I just let it go. I wrote it in this house. You saw the house.
Yeah.
It just, it's a bird sanctuary. And I painted like 8 pieces while I wrote the record.
This reminds me of, I was scrolling Facebook yesterday and came across a video from Peter Erskine.
Yeah.
That he did a year or two ago. He did that record Dr. And then I guess they just recorded like a second volume of Dr. And he was talking about, we made this record Dr. and we got a Grammy nomination and we're very happy about that, but that's not why we make records. That's not why we make music. He said we do this because we must. Right.
Because you got to go into it like, about the money and because to do it well, which I've learned. See, I've learned some things. To do it well you're gonna have to set it back a little bit, but it's an investment. It's a statement.
Yep.
It's a sign of time. So, Life of a Dreamer was my biggest statement to date because I actually went to the top studio in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Recorded the drums with the SSL, Tony and Jim Sapano, over at Zack, man. They're just, and they, they're my friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I have such history there, so the drums sound huge.
Yeah. They got that big, beautiful room, that main room, 30-foot ceiling or something. Yeah.
They take their time and they're like science. They work so well together.
Yeah.
And then they have their crew there just help me with them because it was a huge. On Life of a Dreamer, a huge percussion undertaking.
Yeah,
never done that before.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, but real quick, I want to talk about Tony Terrebonne, who you did this with. He's been the head engineer at Zack Studios in Atlanta for a long time. I've become friends with him since I moved here. He's pretty much the greatest engineer I've ever worked with, and just the sweetest soul.
Yes.
So talk about the process of tracking this record with Tony behind the glass.
Well, firstly, Tony is older and experienced far beyond his years.
Yes.
And so, him tracking and him and Jim, of course, when they're in their own room, they have the top name equipment, SSL, 2 boards basically melded together, You know, and they use it well. But Tony, with the ears and you know, his incredible use of Pro Tools.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, it's the best of my world, and I've been in a lot of studios.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of records where, you know, the drums sound good, but I wasn't playing like jazz drums or solo stuff.
Yeah.
And so they were able to make, to actually record the record well. Now, then when we went to the actual mixing processes, now see, that's where they shine.
Yeah.
That's where they became, you know, Tony and Jim became the sixth Beatle of the record, per se, because they, you know, like even on the tune I did with Bruce Cabbage, where they were really like musicians in it, because he used backwards effects and, you know, I came back one time to listen, not much. You know, I didn't look over their shoulders. You know, I wasn't, you know, and they took a lot more time than they really probably told me they did, you know, and it sounds like the record sounds like a unified thing.
Yeah.
They were thinking like that, far beyond my years.
Right.
I'm a musician, you know, and I know a little bit about recording, but I wouldn't know what mic works and, you know, how to get the most use out that room.
Yeah.
They've cut thousands of sessions there. And I really feel that they were Tony was very happy to do it. And you felt that, and the end product says it.
Yeah.
Almost, you know, it's like some of my paintings, some of my paintings actually, I got framer. Some of the frames look almost better than the paintings. And sometimes, you know, the actual production on some of these tunes, like it's the Sixth Beatle.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, so he is...
I've been in a couple of situations like that where you have just an absolutely gifted engineer who knows the equipment, knows music history, knows the music you're working on.
Right.
And it's not the same as being a producer. Like a really gifted engineer, like you said, can become an extra musician in the group.
Right, you know, like we didn't do a lot of, you know, like as everyone knows in Pro Tools, you could, you know... It's a lot of ways to record, right. So when you record in Pro Tools, the best way to get the best, the most out of this process is to cut with a click. Now, when I record with Errol Klug on his last Spice of Life album, we were swinging with a click.
Yeah.
But when you go back and edit, you go back and do whatever you want to do, whatever, you know. So when we did it, with Tony, he was able to, like, it was only one time we actually, like on My Life on the album, we took it and we added a verse. But man, he massaged it. And you can't tell, you know. So when he does that kind of stuff or vocal stuff, you know, I know they fixed me. I came back, I go like, man, did y'all tune me? And Jim just kind of looked at me. I'm like, okay. He said, Tony worked on it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
So, I'm honored, you know, and I'm glad you brought that up because I really can't say enough about those guys. You know what I'm saying? And we did this record, like Be In My World took 3 years.
Yeah.
But this record was like out the box 6 months.
Yeah.
The whole thing, mixed to track to mix, you know.
I remember I met Tony right around the time you were tracking this.
Right.
I think the first time I met him was like either right before or right after you had been at that studio. And man, he was buzzing. He was like so excited about this project.
Oh, we slam dunked it. It was cray, you know. And, you know, like I said, this is because it's my fourth record. I kind of know, you know, I'm doing the record for the reason of just trying to say, hey, this is Yonrico. I'm a 61-plus-year-old drummer, and I played on all these other records, but this is what I got to say.
Yeah.
You might like, you know, my words are crazy. And you know, but, you know, I could get guest singers.
Yeah.
I could. I know them all. Me and my sister, you know, but I decided if it's going to be a statement, I'm not going to sing a lot, but I want to sing 3 or 4, and I got a statement. I think about Buddy Miles, and I think about, you know, some of those, you know, like I said that before, and what's the other guy? Phil Collins or Levi Helm, or I'm not going to put myself in the same sentence as those guys, but man, I sure do have fun.
Yeah.
You know? And I got angels around me that help me You know, it's not all me financially and spiritually. I got people around me, you know, like my partner Tony and my son Rico, my daughter, and I have my executive producer Robert Bailey. Those guys kind of go like, do what you want to do. Press vinyl.
Yeah.
Do what?
Yeah.
Wow, I resell. How much does that cost? It's crazy. You know? But now, if you know, I got a statement.
Speaking of singing drummers, I recently interviewed Jamison Ross.
Oh.
And he talked about how like he can't separate the singing from the drumming. Like when he thinks of drumming, he thinks of vocalizing. Like he vocalizes his drum parts in his head. And
Right. I do. I think I actually because you know you're in that process of playing with singers for so long, you kind of think like that. Even like as a drummer.
Yeah.
You know, I was having a brief conversation with somebody the other day. You know, when you get drummers who play kind of crazy, not crazy feels, but you go like, what does that mean? You know, like so it's like, you know, and me, I try to sing the thing.
Yeah.
Pop, ba-doop, petty boom, daddy boom, or you know, just some of the most simplest stuff.
Yeah,
just propels the track. So when I think of drumming, when I think of singing, they're all connected.
Yeah,
you know, and now you know, sometimes you know it's challenging. You know, like with the Derek Trucks band, I was kind of a lead vocal, not a lead vocalist, but for the first, it was about a year and a half. Todd and I were the lead vocalists for the band before we really got a singer.
Right.
So for the whole time in the band, I sang background. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoyed it. You know, it kind of inspired me to, you know, to want to go, hey, man, you know, I'm going to sing on gigs.
Right,
and now I'm the most consistent singer I know because I'm going to show up to my gig.
Yeah.
And you got to have it. You can't sit there and go, you know, even playing jazz gigs, you can't play bebop all night.
Right. I mean, you can, but
you know, so a friend of mine says, man, we could play Stella by Starlight. I go like, bro, I like Stella by Starlight, but this ain't that kind of gig.
Yeah.
Because go ahead.
But I was just going to say, I've never heard it put quite that way about singing and drumming. Like, because you basically just said, on the drums, you shouldn't be playing anything that you can't sing. And so there's so much drumming. It's not just these days, but throughout drumming history, there's been a lot of drumming that I think, you know, you'd be challenged to sing, and the person doing the drumming would be challenged to recreate that drum part or that fill vocally.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, okay, you can't sing it, but my question is, what does that have to do with what just went down in the song?
Right.
I mean, you know, this quintuplet to 30-second note triplets, but it sounds cool, or is it really? You know, but you know my philosophy about recording is you get one. You get one, and most of the time you really don't get one, but you get one. Especially if it's a singer. You know, we have parts.
Right.
Like the guitar part got his hook, the drummer got his hook. It might sound like the other 2, 3, but that's the job of a drummer.
Right.
That's my job when I record, is to point it.
Yeah.
They don't know I'm pointing, but I'm thinking like, man, we just did that. I'm not gonna, but I'm gonna do some of. You know, if it's still a shuffle, maybe I play a flat tire instead of playing a double ham shammy whammy, or I might play, or I might go to the Howlin' Wolf tom tom back, you know, dark groove.
Right.
I got these little slings I call them. I can just go whoop, and I know what that is.
Yeah. I was talking with somebody the other day about creating drum parts and how drummers, I think. And I've been guilty of this myself. Like, we put too much pressure on ourselves to create an interesting, unique drum part. And sometimes that's cool. Sometimes that's called for. But a lot of times, the obvious thing is what's called for.
I mean, you know, especially here's another thing. Especially when we're not the writer of it.
Right.
Now, if we, you know, or even if we're the co-writer, which I've been in that kind of situation, like in Derek Trucks and the Royal Southern Brotherhood. Which Royal Southern Brotherhood, all those earlier grooves was kind of, you know, I got co-write. So you maybe want to, you know, I wouldn't use pressure, but you might want to think about what you're going to do. Yeah. Because, you know, in the context of a record, but a lot of times we overact it, we overthink it.
Yep.
And, you know, like I said, go back to, like, you got to be able to sing it. Just like you singing them other parts, and them other guys got hooks, you just got to kind of lay in there.
Yeah.
And then once you think, especially if you, in recording, if you're recording the whole record and the continuity of the record, you got to look at the record as an entire piece, as opposed to that each tune being an entire piece.
Yeah.
You got to look at the whole thing. So, you like with Derek, there's a couple tunes I play with Derek, man, I wouldn't play a drum fill the whole thing. I wish I knew how it was to be free. And I'm playing, because I'm playing the tambour stick with one hand, and the left hand is playing rim shot, you know, or Knock on My Knee by Derek, which is an Indian groove. I play one hand is playing the left hand is stick, right hand is a timpani mallet. And that or Rastaman Chant by Derek Trucks on Soul Serenade, which is I call that is a nail bangy groove, but I'm doing like a 2 drum part.
Yeah.
So the left hand, the left side is going shaku daku, the hi hat, the eighth notes, and just a regular dak do dak do dak do dak do dak do dak. And the right hand with the mallet is soloing.
Yeah.
Because they would you listen to reggae, because there's only 4 or 5 grooves, right? But in reggae, the percussion is never really, very seldom does a percussion player like a real consistent, like a conga groove, like we would do in American music. They kind of play like feels, and you hear, cowbells, is, really not consistent, continual parts.
Yeah. They're
more like soloistic parts.
Yeah.
So my right hand in that groove mimics that soloistic part.
Right.
Man, I worked on it though.
Yeah, and it sounds like you laid the groundwork as far as the drum parts for what JJ and Falcon are doing now.
Oh yeah.
With their orchestrations and the way they put together.
I looked at yeah. They never played. They always play together.
Yeah,
and that was the Allman Brothers too. But that was double drumming.
Yeah,
that's kind of it's kind of you can get one guy go low, one guy go high. Me and Jeff Sipe do it well together.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we will switch drummers in the middle of a song. Like I would go through the floor tom, just bam, switch, and he get up But one guy that you thought about the Allman Brothers, I actually taught a course on this, how 2 drummers play together and how a drummer and percussionist play together. Because there's a lot of myth to that concept.
Yeah, this is something we've talked a lot about on this podcast, because I've interviewed drummers, I've interviewed percussionists,
right,
and orchestral percussionists. And
it's a serious, especially in contemporary music.
Yeah,
because most of the sessions I've done, even the big people. I mean, Earl Klug, I played all the percussion on it because I'm a good drummer, conga player. That's a big statement what I just said. I know how to play with a drummer.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be king tone over it, but I'm gonna play a pocket. But I might play a go-go bell. I remember Earl Klug said to me once while we were recording the record, Spice of Life, when I'm doing percussion, he said, man, I used to get Ralph McDonald. He said, Ralph McDonald come in here with a go-go bell and lock that thing up. Right?
Yeah.
Right, or a triangle. Listen to those still CTI tracks.
Yeah.
Ralph McDonald, man, he play like Grover Washington. He wouldn't play nothing. But it was like, you go, man, that is in the pocket.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned about the congas playing with the drum set, and it's not quinto, it's not the salsa.
No.
Like if you listen to 70s funk, like all that stacks,
there you go,
Watt stack stuff.
There you go.
It's full of conga, but it's not quite the Afro-Cuban
It's
thing.
not the guy kinkoing over the
right. And I've been learning about it because I've been playing in Atlanta Funk Society, and Scotty Bryan plays congas and percussion in that, and he does that thing, man. That
it's
the
drums do pop. Yeah. It's simple.
Yeah.
But man, and it's almost like okay, here it is, the other flavor of percussion and drums. But a good percussionist will know when you don't want to use congas.
Right.
When you know you don't use timbales, which are very seldom used.
Yep.
They should be used though, or bongo. or shakers, or
triangle or tambourine. Scotty does that all the time. Like he'll start a new section, and all of a sudden this like sweet little tambourine comes in, and I'm like, that's exactly.
And it just propels the track
totally.
And so and it really is really obvious when you record it.
Yeah,
because if you as a studier of recording, I've become over these years, when you think about percussion, we listen to those real good tracks, the triangles and just little flavors, will help a drummer.
Yeah.
Because it's not all. I think they're kind of married.
Yeah.
My new thing now is when I get a lot of. I've done a lot of sessions, but I do a lot of sessions that are guys who just say, I'm gonna cut a record, and they says, man, I don't know if I can afford you. I go, well, yeah, you can afford it, but we can talk. So we work it out, right. Yeah. But one of my biggest selling parts is that I would play percussion on it. I said, now everything might not need percussion, but you know what I do? One of my tricks is I shake on everything, and it's a subliminal double the hi-hat part.
Yeah.
So Scott Meader was at he played on this same Earl Klug album, and Earl says, Scott said, hey, Rico, then he picked up a shaker and went, because it's the hook.
Right. So
like I just did a 3 Degrees album, I listened to it the other day, all of it's shaker. Because you can like, Derek Trucks, you listen to all those, especially the Grammy winning records and all that stuff, shaker.
Yeah.
Subliminal.
So where do you go to find a treasure trove of information about vintage drums, custom drums, and legendary drummers? NotSoModernDrummer.com. Since 1988, Not So Modern Drummer is an institution dedicated to researching and documenting the history of modern drums, the art of drum building, and the legendary drummers who play them. The writers and contributors are some of the top vintage and custom drum experts from around the world. Not So Modern Drummer serves as an online gathering place and marketplace for the worldwide community of drummers who buy and sell, collect, preserve, and play these instruments. It also hosts drum-related events that are attended by drummers from all over the world. This website is easy and fun to explore, and the monthly digital magazine subscription is free. So check out NotSoModernDrummer.com.
So I want to go back. You're a Detroit boy.
Yes.
Grew up in Detroit.
Yes.
And during the time you were growing up was like the height of Motown.
Yes.
So, and Detroit is also a jazz town.
Yes.
The Jones family, Elvin, and that whole thing. So, talk about like your musical roots in Detroit. How does the music of that city, how did that shape you?
Okay. Well, I'm very fortunate that my mom was a gospel singer. My mom was from Florence, Alabama, Ruth Naomi Scott, and my grandmother was an organ player. And so, out the gate, we had a gospel quartet singing in my house every two or three times a week. She was in the Detroit Harmonettes, and they toured with James Cleveland. So automatically, at 5 years old, I wanted to play something. We went to church every Sunday. It was like a it was a festivity. And,
party.
Every Sunday we go to church, and then we go to the gospel performances, and it was always a guitar and a bass in my house. Under the I can see it now like it was yesterday. under the couch, and you could open it up and it'd be a Fender, because you can order them then in like catalogs for a couple $100.
From Sears,
right? Yeah. You were like Fender and Drumset. I used to look at the catalogs and just drool like at 4 years old, But I wasn't attracted to that. I told my mom, I said, "Ma, I want to play drums." And she got me a drum set like at 6 years old.
Wow.
Bongos, and stuff. And I started playing right away. And growing up, in Detroit, went to public school. And one of my schoolmates was James Jamerson Jr. And his dad, senior, would come to the class. And dress him as another guy, Giovanni Collier, who plays with Bruce Hornsby, now bass player. And then also Alan McGreer, who played with Tina Marie and Rick James. So there's all these fun guys in the jazz guys. Roy Brooks was in town. I took a couple lessons with him. And my biggest inspiration as growing up was a guy, George Hamilton. He owned one of the first drum shops in the country in Detroit. And, he gave me my first marimba. like I had to pay for it like $50 a month, and I would take the bus up there, so.
And he was on a bunch of records, right?
Yeah. He was a very iconic percussionist with Motown, and so I watched all that go down, and when you're in the midst of that, you kind of think it's like second nature. This is how everybody's playing,
right?
Right. Retha was living in town. My mom was singing gospel, so we would go to her church and hear her father preach, C.L. Franklin, and that was all. It was like being in Detroit that time, and when Detroit was really thriving, like cooking, the Spinners.
Yeah, there was a time, like, economically when Detroit was in the same conversation as New York, LA, and Chicago.
It was 1.3 million people there, and it was the automobile mecca.
Right.
Everybody was thriving, and music thrived. It was a time. It was the rock scene. Bob Seger, the Amboy Dukes, Grand Funk Railroad, Rare Earth.
Yeah.
Rare Earth was a Motown act, and they had a big drum solo, and Jimi Hendrix was rocking. So I came in Detroit. Through that period, music was just so I was just before I knew it. I'm out of high school. I actually got a gig. My mom was really kind of protective of where I played. So my first really big gig was with a band called the Sons of Truth. And it was ran by this guy named Calvin Fair, and it was had a major record deal. I was 16.
Wow. 15,
16, so I was like Derek's age when I started with Derek.
Yeah.
And then we did a first album called Message from the Ghetto. It's still on publication.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
You can find it now on Walsh Stax, which was Stax' label, but it's the gospel label. They had like Rance Allen and all these other acts. So that was my first record. By the time I graduated from high school, I was a football player also. And I became a high school All-American tackle from McKenzie High School. And I got a scholarship. Actually, my first offer was to Alabama A&M. And then to University of Alabama. Went down there and interviewed. They wouldn't let me major in music. I came home and sat out for a year. Still Detroit. I'm thinking, wow, man, I'm gonna play. You're not gonna tell me I'm not gonna play some drums. I done worked on this all in my, I've already cut an album. You're not gonna tell me this, right?
Yeah.
So I come home and I sat out for a year and still played. Went back to my band. Then I went to Kentucky State University, which is in Frankfort, Kentucky. And, started majoring in music. So then I went from this funk guy to this total college student.
Right.
But I played with a couple of bands called, I helped start this band called Midnight Star, which they went on to be million selling artists.
Yeah.
But they all quit school. I said, I'm not going to quit. I kept going.
Yeah, what made you want to go to school and be a music major as opposed, by the time you're 16, you're already working in Detroit, you've made records, and you could just keep doing that. Like, what made you want to go to school?
I think when I went to college, I saw how much I knew, but I saw how much I didn't know. I knew that I didn't read well. I knew that I didn't know a lot about it. I really saw how much that I missed, even though I got a lot on the funk side, the in lack of a better term, illegitimate side, because you got legit, whatever.
Right, yeah.
But that, anything other than European music, but I didn't know how to play classical music. I couldn't read marimba. I couldn't read snare drum well. So I had to share. So I said, you know what? I'm going to learn how to play. And I got the bug. I got the jazz bug. I love big band.
Yeah.
Oh, first time, I'd never really played with a, 16-piece big band.
Yeah, big band was my gateway drug into jazz.
Right.
Like, I started playing in big band in high school, and I was like, damn.
Wow.
I can be the driver.
Woody Herman.
Yeah.
And I was at a college where Stan Kenton was coming around. I met Peter Erskine when he was 19. He was playing with Stan Kenton. These dudes was coming around, and but because of my chops, I had skills, and I would like work on the shit. So I would get like really prominent gigs, even as a freshman, as a jazz drummer, and so I stayed at Kentucky State for 2 years, and in 2 years I outgrew the jazz department. And so I decided to transfer to the University of Kentucky, and I graduated from there with a classical music degree. I studied with a guy from the Lexington Philharmonic. I studied timpani and marimba, did a clap, because then you could major in drum set.
Right.
Nobody made. What was that?
Right. Yeah.
Carmen Appice just did his first book. Jim Chapin had a book. Lawrence Stone had a book, but a drum set.
Yeah.
You know, I was considered an authority at it.
Right.
And even hand percussion. Nobody really documented that process.
This is another thing we've talked about a lot on the podcast is how even today, like you're talking about in your day in the 70s, where percussion programs didn't include a lot of drum set, but it's still kind of true today.
Yeah.
And there's tons of drum set in college music, but it's in the jazz department.
Jazz department. Right.
And in my experience, and a lot of people I've talked to, like jazz departments and percussion departments don't like each other.
No.
Like they don't share students well.
No.
And it's not at every school, but
generally the case because you might get someone you say that you know, their chosen love and their passion is mallet percussion. So it would behoove me to go and like point this mallet percussionist to some kind of improvisation class. Freshman just say how you feel about it. How you feel about this?
Go play some vibes.
Or incorporate improvisatory music and percussion ensembles.
Right.
Which is what John Cage did and originally Stravinsky did. All that stuff Stravinsky wrote he was jamming. And then he said, okay, I'm right, you know.
Yeah.
Basically, you know. So
I talk about the programs I was in, but I went to grad school at University of Missouri, Kansas City, and studied percussion with James Snell.
Oh.
And to Dr. Snell's credit, he didn't include very much drum set in the percussion curriculum, but every concert for the percussion ensemble, we did an improvised piece.
Right.
It was
awesome.
And each time around we'd have kind of different parameters for the improvisation.
Awesome.
But every concert included an improvised piece, which is really cool.
Well, I'll take that. You know what? And listen, I'm not down it. I understand why if you have a percussion department and you are like, you know, you're a professor at a percussion department at a university, why there wouldn't be crazy emphasis on drum set. Where it be because it's such a vast amount of literature to prepare you to get ready to do anything as a percussionist. It's one of the hardest. I mean, I talk about it. You know, when you talk about a repertoire list, each instrument is a repertoire list.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work, man. And you know, so when you think about drum set, I wish there was a way maybe to meld them a little bit better, but you can't put emphasis on it when you got all this other stuff to do.
Right.
And, you know, and as you know, Zack, it's like evolving. 6 mallets. I mean, well, come on. I mean, come on.
It's getting out of hand.
Do it. You got to do it. Well, because you got to be able to, you know, if you're going to be an educator, you got to be able to prepare, you know, and alrighty. So if you're a rudimental drummer, you got to be able to prepare. You got to be able to at least pass this information on properly. So drum set, which, you know, like I said, it's not the easiest thing to document because there's so many variables in it.
Right.
You know, you can have, you know, how a drummer sets up, the sounds of, you know, it's not like a marimba.
Yeah.
It's not
that's an interesting point. Like the other percussion instruments and other percussion literature is easier, I guess, to build a curriculum around.
Yes.
More of it's written down. You know, there are more solo instruments you can play, but drum set is like...
And it's still evolving. Drum set is not even 100 years old.
Yeah.
It's not like piano. Right. Piano's one of the hardest instruments on the planet because there's so much stuff written for it. So the standards of that instrument is like, you know, off the record charts. You can't even, you know, go pluck it. I like to think I'm a plucker, but I can't even want to, you know. But like drum set, I've seen some unorthodox playing drummers. I go like, really?
Yeah.
I ain't gonna mention no names. It wouldn't be nice, but you know, you go like, interesting. But then you go like, I love this. I go like, okay. So I'm like, now I'm internalizing what this guy's doing.
Right.
But when I look at him, because I've been trained, I'm a percussionist. No matter if I go play the dirtiest blues club in the world, if I go play the craziest jazz, funk, R&B, I'm a percussionist.
Yeah.
I'm a college-trained guy who sets up a trap table.
Yeah.
Who brings mallets, who has brushes, who thinks like I put my, like me and Jeff Syke were doing a gig together because he thinks, you know, like we do, you know. And he, it was funny. Tyler says, man, both of you guys were wiping your drums off at the same time. I said, we going to work, baby. Like even if I'm doing rental drums, you know, because when I play jet, you know, blues, all over the world, you don't know what you might get. So you get good stuff, because you have to give them a rider. Mm-hmm. But even when I go play used drums, I wipe them off.
Yeah.
I don't want to look down. I'm playing the tubs. I'm looking at somebody's fingerprints.
Right.
It's a sacred instrument to me. Mm-hmm. So I look at it like a percussionist, and I think that's what it really is. It's a multi-percussion instrument. Mm-hmm. So the variables on it, you could lay a chicken on the tom-tom. It ain't, listen, I think the groove of the universe hadn't been figured out yet. And that's why at 60, almost 62 years old, I'm trying to still figure it out. What is the groove of the universe?
Yeah.
What makes, like Santana say, Santana told me and Derek once, he says, man, I like all that stuff y'all playing, man. I love it. He would come out and sit in. We went on tour with him. Mm-hmm. He'd come and sit in with us every night on My Favorite Things and stuff. He said, I love that stuff you playing, man. I love it. All them, oh, man. But, man, you got to do something to make the ladies happy. He said, if the ladies happy, everybody's happy. Yep. So I kind of think, I think about that as far as, being a percussionist and a drummer. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm going to be a little prejudiced, but I think it's one of the hardest chairs in the band to sit in.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks they know what they want.
Right. And you talk about like being critical of other drummers. It's easy to use your college trained percussionist brain to criticize another dude based on how he looks or how his drums look or whatever. But then you hear the perspective of the other people in the band and the people in the audience, and they love his ass.
Right.
So you got to look at him and be like, what's he doing right?
Right. Which is why I got into snare drums. I got crazy snare drums. I have a great collection. But because I would hear these records and the thing be flopping around the thing and it'd be like, wow. And it'd be like very successful.
Yeah.
I said, well, I need to get me. So now, Steve Jordan, bro, we went out with, we were out with Derek and we went and saw Clapton. Bro, he had a foot locker. He had a drum roadie. Man. He had a snare drum roadie under the drum set. To every song, he would change snare drums. Man. That's a little much.
It might be a little much.
Just a little much. But
I heard a similar story about Kenny Aronoff where, like, if he's in town, if he's in L.A. doing a session, he'll figure out, like, he'll bring 2 or 3 different drum sets and, a few different sets of cymbals and whatever, and he has a horse trailer full of snare drums. So he'll tell his cartage guy, like, bring this drum set, that drum set, bring these cymbals, and bring the trailer. I don't know if it's true, but
I bet you it is.
I believe it.
Oh, I totally believe it. That's because what I'm just telling you. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, man, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I can go and do like these out the door records, which a lot of them have turned out to be Samantha Fish and Devon Allman and the Royal Southern Brotherhood. I did 6 with them.
What do you know about Samantha Fish?
What I know about her?
Yeah.
I played her first records.
So I
toured with her.
I spent 7 years in Kansas City.
Oh, I know a lot about her.
Yeah.
And Go-Go Ray.
Yeah, it's on my radar to interview Go-Go. I got to get in touch with him. Did he really?
Yes.
Anyway.
But what I know about her? I know Chris.
Yep.
I know the Kansas City children. I know everybody. I know Roger. Roger. The Blues Cruise.
Yeah. I just interviewed Jan Faircloth.
Okay.
A while ago. So I spent 7 years there. I played mostly jazz there.
Oh, really?
And so I'm working my way around to the Kansas City drummers on the podcast.
Yeah, Go-Go's the one. I don't know who else.
Well, I interviewed some of the jazz guys like Ryan Lee.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
Young Badass and Giuliano Mingucci.
Oh,
and
I've heard that name.
Yeah, he's also a great audio engineer. Who am I missing? Oh, John Kazillermoot.
Oh, okay.
He came there after I moved away from Kansas City.
Okay.
But just an amazing jazz drummer, vibraphonist. Talk about like a drummer and percussionist.
Right.
Plays all kinds of vibraphone and composes and so. But yeah, Kansas City is just a beautiful music town.
Pretty man. I got some good stories about that, bro. That'd be a whole nother interview, but I got stories about that one. But I played the Starlight Theater, bro.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, what is this? And we walked in Kansas City and gave everybody a rental car. And I was like, okay. So we went and played this thing, and the whole band sits in a dungeon.
Right.
And the conductor sticks his head out the floor of the theater, like in the front, and there's no lights. It's all about the moonlight and the play there with Jennifer Holliday, who did the Dreamgirls.
Right. Okay.
The original. But it wasn't. It was like the redo of her doing it. She did the original. She won a Tony Award for that.
Yeah. What was it that brought you to Atlanta?
Well, okay. I get out of college. I go through University of Kentucky, senior recital. Graduate, smoking, and my mom, who was truly a visionary, and she says, you need to go to Atlanta. Atlanta's the city of Atlantis. It's the city of the future. And I had a girlfriend at that time. She lived in Atlanta. I checked it out a couple of times. I came to Atlanta. I had an offer to go to L.A. to play with James Jamerson Jr. So it was between L.A. or Atlanta. And I came to Atlanta. I was here like a week and got a gig right away as a professor at the Neighborhood Arts Center. And it was with John Collet, Joe Jennings, who was taught at Spelman. I had a bunch of students. Spike Lee was a drum student. Bill Nunn was a drum student. And Count Mobutu was one. I taught piano and drums there. Yeah. Got a big band gig right away. I was like, wow. There's barely 1 million people here.
Right.
Now it's 8, 9.
Yeah.
It was barely 1 million people. I mean, I was like one of the first drummers on the Free Jazz Festival, and then the Ted Turner started firing it up, and I started doing CNN. So I got in Atlanta right when it was cute. It wasn't
when it was cute.
Right. It wasn't a big. It was like a nice Nashville.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah. It still kind of is.
It was
I haven't spent a lot of time in Nashville.
Well, Nashville. No. But that the way Nashville is now is the way Atlanta used to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where it was smaller. It was easy to navigate. It wasn't. I mean, the only thing I love Atlanta. That's why I'm still here. But it's just take it. It's harder to navigate. It reminds you of a northern city.
Yeah.
But other than that, the quality of life is wonderful, and it works for me. My spirit is here. I got a lot of friends here, a lot of connections. I love playing here. Sometimes, the local scene can be a little challenging, but it works for me.
Yeah.
So I've always. It's amazing that I've traveled the world. Lived in L.A. for 7 months. Did New York Broadway, Toronto, Japan. Always gravitated back to Atlanta. My kids won't even live here. And they're grown. They live in the Carolinas, which is maybe where I eventually retire.
Yeah.
But it got an energy, man, right?
It does.
It really does. It's different. It's different than New York.
I think part of it's being in the South.
Right. A huge part.
This is the first time I've lived in the South, and the South in general definitely has its share of baggage, and its share of bad history.
Sure.
But there's also so much good. There's a vibe here that is old.
Right.
Old
but new and fresh, because we have a lot of people that come here.
Right.
And it's we doing big business.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I said, man, you come to Atlanta, man. I said, don't think that you in the country.
Right.
And these people aren't smart. They're going to be looking at you and say, go down and get some peaches. But, man, people here are on top of it. It's major business going on in the city. I hung out with both, Andy Young. I mean, I played with, because I played with Peebo Bryson, all these guys. And Maynard Jackson. He built that airport, man. Biggest airport in the world.
Yeah.
And listen, I've been to the airport that is.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's hard, like I say, just to it's like anything else, you got to grow with it if you're going to be around it. It's not for everybody. Like New York ain't for everybody. Like San Francisco's not for everybody. For me, I feel my spirit is, and it's why I've been able to produce music, at my age. I got a lot of friends and my peers who still are musicians, but they just kind of, choose to just chill in Atlanta, like you do in a lot of cities. But Atlanta, quality of life is good.
Yeah.
People look cute. Everybody looks healthy.
Most of them. Yeah.
Most right. I'm just.
But Atlanta, like it's an international city. Like the way it presents is kind of country.
Yeah.
Like you come here and everything's in the forest.
Right.
And you don't come over the hill and see it like you do L.A.
Right.
You know, it's not this metropolis from afar. You always feel like you're in the forest.
Right.
But like you said, there is big business going on here. It is hooked into the rest of the world.
Hooked.
Yeah.
Hooked. And, and it's never going to go away. It's not going to be anything but get bigger. Mm-hmm. If that's what you choose to do. If you got any entrepreneurial desires, this is the place to go.
Yeah.
That's why I tell my son, because you can do it here.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Over and over again. I've been blessed to construct bands here. And basically, the Derek Trucks band, even though he's from Florida, basically that band was kind of... This is an Atlanta band.
Yeah.
We took the first picture on his record in Little 5 Points.
So let's get to that. How and when did you get hooked in with Derek Trucks and do that whole thing?
Okay, there's a real crazy story how the day I met him, but I'm gonna leave some of it out because it's really out. But you don't want to know. But I did get a call from Bruce, and Bruce says,
Colonel Bruce Hampton.
Colonel Bruce Hampton, my buddy. He says, well, Derek Trucks needs a drummer. You're going to be ready in 24 hours. You're going to get a call. I got a call in 24 hours. I said, I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Now, see,
he's like a teenager at this point, right?
He was 15. He was 15.
Jesus.
15. And he already been playing, and he had a band, and Todd Smalley was in the band, and they just need to get a heavy hitter to go, or it's not a heavy, a guy who can interpret this real
grown
quick.
up.
Right, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because by that time I was 39 years old.
Uh-huh.
So I've already had, been around the block a lot.
Yeah.
My kids had kids and everything. And so the next day, I went rehearsal in one day, and the next day we were playing at the Peach Blossom Festival in Macon, opening for 38 Special. The next day, I said, and I looked at this guy, man. He didn't say a lot.
Yeah.
And then we went on. They asked me to be the regular drummer. And this is after I had been doing Broadway. Mm-hmm. I did 5 guys named Mo, Wiz, Dreamgirls, played with Peebo, been around the world. And I said, man, I need to regroup. And I decided to do it. And we toured around in the van for 3 years.
Yeah. Me,
him, and Todd. It was a couple points where everybody kind of left with just me, him, and Todd, and Chris, his dad. Mm-hmm. Butch's brother, and we just grew. And then he actually got his first record deal at 16. And before that, he had a lot of people that offered him record deals. He just didn't want to record. But now he felt like he had a band, and we had we went there and whooped 30 songs with John Snyder, a real renowned producer with CTI, lives in New Orleans, produced the first record at Dockside Studio, and that's the first Derek Trucks band record. And then we did 2 more, Out of the Madness, which I wrote a tune called Out of the Madness, which is on my record and his record. Yeah. And then we went on to do like 9 records.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. So at the time you joined the band, he's 14, you're 30.
15.
Okay, he's 15, you're 39. He is a child prodigy at the beginning of his journey, and you've been around a few blocks a few times already. So you're kind of an elder statesman to him. What did the two of you teach each other?
Oh, a lot. And I gotta, it's hard to me to think of him, even though he's a few years older than my son, to me to think of him as an elder statesman to him, because he was so ahead of it. Because even by 15, he'd been playing since at 9, and he got it real quick. Yeah. And he's really smart. So the most things that I'm just real with the guy. He brings the realness out of me. Mm-hmm. He brought a lot of my boundaries down. I had to listen. He's my leader. One of the first things I said to him was, bro, I'm older than you, man, but you the leader, bro. If you got something you want to hear, you tell me what you want to hear. And I said that to him, and then about a year later, he said something, and then he never stopped after that. Like, you know, and you can tell, you know, because like after the first record, you know, which we did So What, Naima, we did a kind of lot of little PC. We're good, but after the first record, he started driving the car.
Yeah.
You know, this is way before he was in the Allman Brothers or anything.
Right.
Now, he had already set in with them, but, you know, but from the beginning, my biggest thing was, what is your vision? That's what his dad was always instrumental about that, you know. What do you want to do? You know, he didn't want to go out and be a child star.
Right, and I've heard him talk in interviews about how his dad wasn't like the typical stage parent.
No.
And was like a true ally in his son's musical development and in his professional development.
Right, he kind of let it, you know, which is why he is where he is now, because his career was a gradual incline.
Yeah.
It never went wham. Right. You know, what you kind of find with some other guys. So, you know, I was just lucky to be a part of it, because what it really in turn Zack made me do is retool my vibe too. Because I had to go back and learn that stuff. We would have jazz month where we be in the van and we listen to jazz, crazy stuff. Then we had blues. We broke blues apart. We broke Indian classical apart.
Yeah.
We broke Latin music apart to the point where we got Pedro Martinez. You know what I'm talking about? He's this Cuban percussionist, lives in New York, real hot. He was in the All-Stars, the Havana All-Stars.
Yeah.
He's in a couple of those videos, but he's like the youngest guy. Well, Derek loved him. The guy sings, you know.
Right.
And we had him come from New York to teach us one song. Not really, but we really were looking at him to be the vocalist before we got Javier. And he just, you know, it didn't work out, but he taught us one song. So we would do these these practices, you know, where we would practice 2 or 3 days. And we go to these retreats in the mountains. You know, now he has it behind his house.
Right.
He makes them come to him. But, you know, and it's because he practices. You know, so I got back into the vibe of like doing what I was doing in college. You got a lot of years between, you know, like 23 and now I'm 39. I'm 39. You know, I'm 39, so I'm kind of going. You know, I'm still playing. You know, my son says, "Man, Dad, I remember you supported the whole family. You had 2 drum sets." Because I did. Yeah. Because I didn't really need that much. Now I'm a sound specialist.
Right.
Because I figured that whole side of it out. It's all development, and he helped me develop it, because even though I had played with all these iconic bands, I didn't know a lot about endorsements. I didn't know about music merchandising. You know, because everybody was in his Kool-Aid. Todd and me, we just like jumped, whoa, you know, and they came at us too. Right. So now I'm just a chief endorser of all those companies and only the companies that I wanted to do. I learned a lot of stuff with him too. Like his, you know, like having integrity about what kind of instrument you want to play. Yeah. He plays what he want to play. So I learned a lot from him, and I think he learned a lot from me. I remember one day teaching him, we had a how to read a chart session. You know, the slangs, because there's different ways to approach reading a chart. Yeah. You know, on the guitar, it's probably the hardest thing in the world, like vibraphone, to read single line melodies. Because vibraphone is easier because you can see it. But guitar, you don't really see it. So, you know, most guitar players aren't the greatest. You know, don't get mad at guitar players, but they're single line readers. But chord charts and lead charts and rhythmic charts, bro, he's brilliant. Wow. You know? So,
well, that's another interesting thing about coming from a collegiate background and then playing pop music, right, or blues, or, you know, with a bunch of musicians who did not go to college, who might not even read music. Like, over the years, I've had to learn how to use other language,
slangs.
Yeah. And figure out what they're talking about and be able to tell them what I want, or what, you know, in their terms. In their terms, especially with singers. Like, I'll, you know, you can say like, let's start on that 7th bar, and they'll be like, what, you know, they don't think of it that way. And I figured out, start on this lyric, right? You know,
but also, like, you know, like in Life of a Dreamer, it was a situation. See, I wrote all, you know, the tunes of Life of a Dreamer and all that. I'll take a chord. It was me playing piano, my Ebonic Rico piano playing, you know. But I hire bad boys.
Yeah.
I hire the pros. I go like, what you got? Like, you know, but some guys, man, I do sessions. I did a session in New York the other day, and this guy had like 12 tunes, and he had like programmed them all with drum machine. And like, I mean, they were already done, written with his program. And so when we went back to record the record, he says, man, we're like, so I played what I thought, which I thought was better, looser, was what you get me for, you know?
Right.
And then he said, no, man, play what I did there. And me and Todd looked at each other like, okay, we just, all right, let's go. And we just did it, you know?
You're signing that check.
So, you know, learning those kind of slangs, like you say, learning to communicate, you know,
But it sounds like Derek was wanting to learn what you knew. Like, you didn't have to talk down to him.
Oh, no.
He came up to you.
No, and you know, like he learned rhythmic, he understood, you know, anything, rhythmic groupings and all that right away, you know, within a month. You know, I mean, it's not rocket science, it's math.
Right.
You know, and then because he's already planned it. So, you know, it's almost like the Suzuki method.
Yeah.
The Suzuki method is like they teach a kid how to, of course, you know how to play first. Then they talk about reading. You're like, you remember you played da-da-da-da-da-da? That's 2 groups of 16 notes. You know, it's easy.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, it was a, man, it gave me so many learning curves. It like brought me to life again. It brought me, you know, to actually revisit and live. And almost, you know, and not just revisit and live, but to learn new, like Indian classical music.
Yeah.
We went to Ali Akbar's college, bro, and kissed his feet. Right? And sat in a classroom with Ali Akbar Khan and all his kids and like 40 other people in this room, and they all had sitars and sarod and 2 or 3 tabla players. And we would do band trips. And we went there and figured that out. So we learned. Like, we have several tunes we played we sent tracks to, you know, Pakistan.
Yeah.
You know, for Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. You know, and then we really learned reggae music. So I don't think, man, you know, with a band like that, with players like with Kofi Burbridge, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Huh? That guy there, you know, he's a scientist. He's a silent orchestrator of all of band. He's a silent orchestrator of the Tedeschi Trust Band, and I'll say that clearly. And Derek knows because he makes them sound like that. You got that stuff good on the top, that crazy rhythm on the bottom, that great linear stuff. But what makes it is that harmonic, and that's Kofi Burbridge. Yeah, and that's what makes the Derek Trucks Band sound so big. Like, and so we learned, like when we play with he passed away. We did jammies with I can't think of his name.
Guitarist or
no, singer. Solomon Burt.
Oh, okay.
Okay, when we played with Solomon Burt looked at me. We was in the studio in L.A. and he says, "Man, you 3 guys sound like 7." He said, "I'm gonna fire my band because it's the way we would like. We have figured it out." Yeah. It's all about combinations. You know, I learned like that kind of combination, how to make a quartet, a sextet, or a quintet sound like, you know. I think it's why he got 11, 12-piece band, because he just pushes the button. He don't got pedals, he got horn section.
Yeah, everybody go.
And he takes them out. He said, "You come over here and sing." Yeah. You know, it's a combination.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because to see them play, like if you hear them on the record, it's one thing. But if you see them play, it's not very often that everybody's playing
at the
together.
same time, right?
Like everybody picks their spots. The horns have a little thing there. The organ has a little thing. Like
And believe me, they ain't doing it nonchalantly. He's told them what to do.
Yeah.
There's layers, you know. Even like the horns with that band, it's not really horn riffy stuff. It's almost like pads. Yeah. When everybody plays together, it's like so it's really, if you look at it in kind of in a virtual sense, it's like he got a bunch of virtual pedals. He's got 2 drummers. Right. 1 drummer. 1 drummer with percussion. 1 drummer with brushes. 1 drummer with sticks. Yep. You know, Falcon kind of plays kind of the blaster part, and JJ kind of does more the soulful part. Right. And then when they play together, it's like, You know, it's like Elvin Jones on steroids.
Yeah, man. I heard Derek Trucks gave a great interview on the WTF podcast with Mark Maron, and Maron asked him, like, what is it about the two drummers thing? Like, and Derek said, man, it gets tribal up there real fast.
Right. That's what we want.
Yeah.
And that's what he's going for. You know, that's what he hears.
Yeah.
You know, and then of course being in the Allman Brothers, he saw the benefit of that. They had 3 guys, and it was madness to that. I mean, there was method to that madness.
Yeah.
You notice they never played just like the Derek guys. They never played alone.
Right.
They even did clinics together. Those 3 guys.
Yeah.
Bush would make sure, hey, we got to do clinics together. Yeah. I'm gonna miss him.
Yeah. I never got to meet him.
He was my friend, you know, and he, you know, I know all his kids. You know, he inspired me. You know, I'm you know, I consider myself, you know, a close member of the Trucks family.
Yeah.
You know, I know his grandfather, his father, and you know, he would be so duly missed. And you know, he was one of those drummers. When you talk about working drummer, I was thinking about this yesterday. You kind of almost don't want to think of him as a working drummer because he was a rock star guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But he was kind of like later, you know, after the Allman Brothers kind of did, you know, broke up, he was kind of starting to be a working drummer. And I actually, when saw him in Macon, I said, man, you know, I really respect that you're doing this. He said, yeah, I got to work, Rico.
Yeah.
You know, and so he was kind of, you know, doing that. It's rough.
Yeah.
Bro.
Especially later in life, like if you start out in your 20s,
right,
and you're playing the club gigs and you're hustling,
right.
That's how most people do it. But guys like Butch started at the top,
look,
and then had to go into the working drummer thing.
Right. And Butch ain't never not had a roadie. I doubt it.
Yeah.
I don't know if J-Mo probably maybe because J-Mo's. He's a pretty minimal guy. He's my friend too, you know.
Yeah.
And he'll set up 4 drums and 2 cymbals. He'd be Ringo Starr all day.
Right.
And I, you know, but those guys. So I'm glad to be able to say that about my friend. You know, and bless his heart, bless his family's heart. You know.
So Royal Southern Brotherhood still going?
No, I actually we had a good run, man. You know, we did 6 years, and I just left them on January 1st.
Oh, just recently?
Yeah, just like a month ago. I'm just getting out of it. I just got my drum. I had a drum set that lived with them for 6 years.
Wow.
I'm cray. It's a great drum set. It was so I got you know, it was good, man. It changed. It gave me another perspective of the world. Talking about working drumming, bro. Oh my God, I did it with that because we did Europe on a kind of crude, kind of blues level. But the Royal Southern Brotherhood was on Rough Records. Great. The label was owned by this guy named Thomas Ruff. You know, barely 50.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of energy, and he had Samantha Fish, Devon Allman, Royal Southern Brotherhood, Cyril Neville, Brian Healy. He got like a lot of bands around the world. He has his label, Royal Southern Brotherhood, was like his pet band. So I was lucky because I got a chance to go to Europe, and my image was in everything. Even though I wasn't a leader, I was a sideman. That was, you know, the Devon Allman, Mike Zito, and Cyril Neville were the leaders. And we never met each other. So I walk in the studio, Dockside, they said, man, you want to cut this record? Charlie Wooten called me, you want to cut this record with this new band? I said, okay. No, do you want to go and roll with him? I go, okay. He said, Cyril Neville's in it. I go like, oh yeah.
Done.
Done deal. So I go do the record, never met him. Walk in the studio, me and Mike Zito walk in, just me and him. Cut first 2 tunes on the record, just me and him.
Wow.
Get up the next day, cut the rest of the record. I'm quick. And cut the rest of the record in a day.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned how to record too. That's where I that's why Tony and Jim loved me over at Zack, because that's how I recorded Life of a Dreamer.
Right.
I went in there with a total plan. I didn't leave any question to nobody. I gave room for creativity, but I was like, I'm cutting these tracks in 2 days.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to give you a lot of money. That's what people say to me. But you got to be, I want your undivided attention. And that's how Royal Southern Brotherhood would go to Dockside Studio, which was this plantation. And you lived there. You never left. That's where B.B. King recorded. That's where Derek did his first record. Yeah. And so that's how I kind of perceive, recording. I learned that stuff from Royal Southern Brotherhood. I also learned that, I can maybe be a success in Europe as a solo guy. You just gotta kind of figure it out. Europeans think about music totally different. They want the real raw stuff.
Right.
They don't want no smooth jazz.
Yeah.
They want some blues. They want to hear you in a club, and they will pay for it.
Yep.
You just got to get your niche.
Yeah, you got to spend a little time building out your audience there.
They're acts, man, that now go over there like Walter Trout. He makes $200,000 a year in Europe and makes $40,000 a year in America. Yeah. Royal Southern Brotherhood did well in Europe. We just could not do well in America. We had a hard time. The bookings, especially when Devon left, it was hard getting it popular because Devon's an Allman. Right. It was the name thing, Cyril's a Neville. Right. And so the whole thing was a manager put together band. Yeah. It's a good idea. Look like a rock band, sound like a rock band, 2 guitars. Yeah, yeah. It was raw,
It's a Southern supergroup.
Supergroup, crazy drummer, big hat, great bass player running around. We take dude, I love me and Charlie Wooten solo for 45 minutes a night. They made us do. They leave the stage and go have drink. Not Mike wouldn't drink, but somebody would drink, and they go do whatever they did. But we really got some good solo chops. So I'm not doing that now. Now I'm just on the next level.
Yeah, yeah. Well, man, I've lived here for over a year, and I feel like I should have met you a lot sooner than I did, but I'm glad we finally hooked it up.
I'm glad you asked me to do this, and you're I can't wait to hear you play. Oh, man. I love your spirit. I could tell when you stepped out your car, I was like, oh, he's cool. Somebody says, I get a lot of people ask me for stuff. Yeah. Interviews or, hey man, I want to come by your house and and I was like, I looked it up and I was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. So thank you. And thank you for coming by. We're going to hang. We'll be friends.
My pleasure, man.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
You can probably tell that being in Yonrico's presence is quite an experience. It was great talking with him, and I left there understanding perfectly why he is such a beloved figure in Southern music and in his musical community. So thanks to Yonrico for the time. I am currently on tour with the Equinox Orchestra, traveling through the U.S. You can go to equinoxorchestra.com for the complete list of dates through May. If we're going to be near you and you'd like to check out the show, contact me via Facebook at facebook.com/Zack Albetta, and I may be able to get you some tickets. Once again, keep in touch with us on social media or at workingdrummer.net. I want to send a thank you to Mike Jackson for his technical assistance. Matt Krause is back with you next week, and as always, thanks for listening.